We plan to be sitting next to each other because we realize we have a lot of shared answers here. So I want to address the first question that you asked, Pradeep, and that was this whole concept of turning service off for, let's just say, non-payment. Is the technology out there to allow the utility to do that, to remotely turn off your service? The answer to that question is yes. However, that's not the entire answer. The answer is that in New York, you have the New York Public Service Commission that takes a look at all of our operating practices, and we actually have what is considered a electric tariff that actually guides the way in which we operate. The New York State Public Service Commission has been very clear to us that to actually turn customer service off is a very serious situation, and it has to follow certain guidelines. I don't know that we would pursue that, turning someone's service off remotely. I really don't think that that was something that we ever envisioned this technology for. But I will tell you, if we do, it has to be under discussion with the Commission and under very strict guidelines that the consumers are aware of. And this, go ahead.
I was not talking, you need to shut that off when I talk, because otherwise there's feedback. I wasn't talking about shutting off my power because I wasn't paying my monthly bills. I was talking about, you know, if I'm using too much electricity in my dryer at night and you can't supply that power, you can stop me from using my dryer that night. My question was, why would I want to pay? That was a question that came up earlier, right? Why would I pay extra to get my dryer to shut off when I need to use it?
So
that was the question.
So, all right, I apologize, Pradeep. I know that you wouldn't be in that first category. Can you stop the camera now? But the question is a good one. You know, why would a consumer allow the remote control of the, you know, for their home experience to make that decision where they wouldn't do their laundry at a certain time? And I think, again, that goes back to a discussion that we're just starting to have internally with our marketing and pricing people. And that is that a value to the consumers? Is that something that consumers would actually have a conversation with us about? And I think the part B of that is, if the answer is yes, then the consumers would likely come back and say, however, it has to be under these conditions, and you have to allow this type of incentive to me, which to me, when I hear that, is usually some type of discount or some type of advantage on a pricing side. And the answer to that, the full answer is, right now, we're still investigating that. So when you start to hear about the town hall meetings that we're likely to have, I invite you to please participate. Please talk back to us, because we want to get this right.
Just keep in mind that when a market player talks about giving a discount, they almost always move the price up first. So for the people who don't agree, you're paying the tax, and the people who do agree to what they want are paying what you would have paid if it wasn't for the introduction of technology. The market really works in strange ways and provides strange incentives. And so when I meet people who are on the ground doing the work, I'm always sort of enthusiastic about what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to do good things. There are real difficult infrastructure and supply side problems with the electrical system in the United States, and we need to focus on those. But then I hear them talk about going in to meet with the marketing people, and I lose all confidence, because those are the people who will turn it to something other than what it otherwise might be.
Yes.
Sanjay kind of touched on this at the end of his presentation, the kind of inefficiencies and risks of implementing and regulating smart grid in kind of somewhat segmented efforts around the country, state by state, utility by utility. And I'm just wondering, at what point would the federal government look to get involved beyond kind of the development of standards level and more seriously in a oversight regulatory model? And where is it most likely to happen?
Let me start on that one. I think the government has already started doing a lot of that. And I worked closely with Patricia Hoffman and Chris Irvin in trying to figure out what's happening. They are trying to foster a lot of these cooperative agreements and whatnot through the money that they're giving out. They're given a ton of money. to different utilities all over the country. And so a lot of the standards bodies are right now trying to see if they can create synergies in all the standards that are created. The government has NERC and FERC, right? Both of them are involved in creating a high level of some kind of supervision. And finally, we have NEST, which is a standards body, which is trying to create standards. They have standards on cybersecurity and so on and so forth. So a lot of different government bodies are trying to create these standards. They are overseeing bodies which are trying to, which are trying to really create processes and procedures. But in the long run, I mean, I'm going to speak a little bit different from what a utility company would say. The utility companies across different regions, they compete with each other. If you look at the regions that were created in the past, they were because there were 3 separate grids which were created in the United States, and there was cooperation within and across the different ones. So with the synchro-failure initiative, we might be able to have larger domains and so on and so forth because they can have better synchronization. So I think over time cooperation is going to increase. So it's a very complex question, which is partly in competition, partly in how much the government has the control, and so on and so forth. My main issue is that, what happens when the stimulus money runs out? There is no more stimulus money which is coming for this. That's something we need to be concerned about in general.
Thanks, Andy. So, and you also asked the question, when would the federal government get involved? I can tell you, I've sit on some of the discussions with the Edison Electric Institute, which is a industry, mostly an investor-owned utility group that helps to collect and aggregate some of the utility comments in response to some questions that the FERC or the DOE asks. And so the DOE has been very interested in what's happening in the smart grid space. How is it being perceived? Is it being implemented? What challenges are there? And so they've been asking the question, when and if does the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC, need to get involved, and at what level? And one of the most recent discussions was the FERC's question to the DOE and then of course to EEI and its member utilities. Is there a need for the FERC to get involved to accelerate expansion of a smart grid through some type of federal smart grid rate that would be put out for the transmission companies at the federal level? Just so you're aware, FERC gets involved when you start talking about transmission systems when they cross state boundaries because it's interstate commerce. The state regulatory agencies are involved when it's within the jurisdiction of the state.
Yeah, and it is interesting because this dynamic actually is in play, already, right? So you kind of had a lot of money that was put out there by the feds for smart grid investment grant, and there's certainly questions among the state, the various state regulators about, how much are they going to allow the